Today on Earth Focus, author Charles Eisenstein discusses his new book, Sacred Economics, and its implications for the environment. Coming up on Earth Focus. Charles Eisenstein is an author and public speaker who focuses on themes of civilization, consciousness, money, and human cultural evolution. In his new book, Sacred Economics, Charles traces the history of money from ancient gift economies to modern capitalism, revealing that our money system has contributed to alienation, competition, scarcity, and necessitated endless growth. But in the wake of these trends, Charles envisions a new opportunity to be more connected, ecological, and sustainable. He calls it sacred economics.
Yeah, so I talk about sacred economics, and that trips up a lot of people, because how could money and economics be sacred? It seems like we have two separate realms. There's economic life, which is driven by self-interest and profit, and then we have spiritual life, or altruism, or something else. And I think that this division is one reason why our planet is careening toward destruction. Because we have to always fight ourselves to do the right thing. So for me, sacred economics, it's describing a system in which money is no longer the enemy of the things that are becoming sacred to us. For example, the health of the planet, social justice, things like that. You could say that what is sacred to us is changing. That a couple generations ago, what was sacred to us was growth, was the conquest of nature, the expansion of the human realm. And our money system was very well suited toward that ambition. Today, we're unavoidably recognizing that that has to change. We're desiring to no longer be the conquerors of nature, but to be the partners of nature, to heal the damage that's been done. The question is, can we create a system in which we want to work, in which our natural desire to create and to contribute has room to flourish? A lot of the things that have to happen on this planet today run counter to the motivation of money. Maybe if this coercive power were removed, people would be free to do the things that they really want to do. People want to replant forests, restore wetlands, take care of disabled children. There's so much beautiful work, huge amounts of it, that needs to be done. But there's no money in those things. So you could say that our economic crisis has a spiritual dimension too, in that it brings us to these deep questions. And I think that to have a fundamentally different experience of economic life, the changes have to go to that level. You can talk about the economic system, the money system, and all of its problems, but this whole system is embedded in something larger. We've, over time, converted anything and everything into money. Maybe not, we're not quite done yet, but whether it's the land, the trees, the fish, the oil, the coal, and human relationships, human capital, our capacity to invent and to create art, music, all of these things becoming product. This process has been going on for thousands of years, and today it's reaching kind of an extreme where there really isn't that much left to convert. And that means that a big change is inevitable. Unless you believe that a finite planet can accommodate infinite growth forever, then you have to admit that at some point our growth-dependent model has to change. What's that going to look like? In our time, in our generation, in my generation, we're seeing the extreme of this old paradigm. And maybe we won't see the full-fledged birth of something new. Maybe in our lifetime and for generations to come, we'll be in this kind of in-between space where the old story isn't working anymore. The old world has fallen apart and the new one hasn't been born. And maybe we catch glimpses of what the world could be. But it hasn't coalesced yet. All of the proposals that would really lead to what I call a sacred economy are pretty much off the political radar map. You can't even formulate them in a way that sounds politically responsible. That means that the systemic view of what is practical, feasible, has to break down. The rules of the game have to break down before we're ready to entertain more radical notions. And when that happens, ideas that are hopelessly radical today will become common sense. It's already beginning to happen a little bit as we look at climate change and environmental destruction, where something like, a carbon tax or taxes on pollution, I mean, these were inconceivable just maybe even 20 years ago. No sane politician would even think about those or talk about those. And now you're starting to see them encroach at least onto the margins of political discourse. Today, you ask, where's the money? And the money is usually in destruction and stripping resources and destroying the environment, and not in developing zero waste manufacturing, not in cutting pollution, not in replanting forests. Many people want to live sustainably, want to live locally, want to live organically, but that's more expensive. Why is it more expensive? One reason is that exploitative, destructive, ecocidal manufacturing and shipping is artificially cheap because it is subsidized, because it doesn't include all of its costs. So for example, if you manufacture and you make a lot of pollution, your product doesn't include the costs of that pollution to future generations and to people downwind. If it did, if the cost of, say, a head of lettuce shipped from 1,000 miles away, if that included all of the effects of burning that fuel to ship it, then that head of lettuce would be way more expensive, and the local organic lettuce would be cheaper. And so you wouldn't have to fight economic interest to do the right thing. So in a way, all we need to do is to level the playing field, to remove the artificial cheapness of things and make pollution expensive. And if pollution were expensive, then if you're a bright young entrepreneur, then your incentives are different. You could make a lot of money by developing a zero waste process. So economic interest and ecological interest don't have to be in opposition. And I think a key moment came in the 1960s and early 70s, when first the astronauts went up into space and brought us these photographs of the planet. And for many people, it was the first time they'd ever seen an image of the Earth without borders. All of the astronauts had a spiritual experience. They felt tremendous love for the planet and said things like, it's a quote from, I believe, Rusty Schweikart. From up in space, Earth was this little blue dot that you could cover with your thumb. And he said, I realized that everything precious to me was on that little speck. And he said he was never the same after that. And I think he was kind of speaking on behalf of humanity. And at the same time, we became aware of the ecological crisis through books like Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. We began to awaken to the fact that what we do to the planet, we're doing to ourselves. It's taken a while for us to really integrate this. So a lot of environmentalists look at the situation on this planet and look at humanity's role in destroying the global ecosystem, and it looks like we're kind of nature's big mistake, like a tumor that's taken over everything, devoting all resources toward its own growth and poisoning the host. It's a very dark vision. But I'd like to offer an alternative vision. In nature, there are a lot of situations where there's a period of rapid growth that is actually unsustainable. You could say we're a very young species, Perhaps we've just been in the childhood of our species, growing and growing, just like a child grows, and like a child taking from our mother, from Mother Earth, taking everything we needed for our growth. So now we've grown to the very limit of the planet's capacity. And something is changing now. And I think that humanity is entering this new kind of love relationship with Mother Nature. And maybe it's not new, maybe indigenous people had a co-equal, co-creative relationship. But for mass society, it is new for us to look at Earth as anything other than a source of resources. Part of that is cause for my personal optimism, as I understand that by doing even a tiny thing, I'm still just as much part of this global shift. And for me, when I really embrace that knowledge, the despair melts away, and I can focus on what I'm led to do that feels important to me, and that gives me that feeling of being alive. You know, listening to that yes, listening to the heart, you could say.
Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.